Yeah, remember the name. Jazz Takhar, best in the game. Mamba mentality in his own lane. So better pay attention to what he be saying. Get the message, ain't no question. Giving advice for any investment. Welcome to the broadcast, the Jazz Takhar podcast.
I am super stoked, brother, because you and I have done a lot of content before, but you've never actually been on the Jazz Takhar podcast.
We talked about this for a while.
And it finally happened.
Yeah.
You've had me on some of your training sessions, and Tom, and for my viewers and listeners, I'm sitting with Tom Storey. The accolades are long for you, brother. So I'm not going to bore people other than tell them that they need to go to Instagram, follow you as a fellow realtor. I got to tell you, I creep your Instagram sometimes and just take topics from you. And I'm a content creator. I got a lot of topic ideas, but the way that you have figured out how to speak about the real estate market is hands down. And I said it to the live audience, and big shout out to the immersioners, part of my immersion group. I think we have 10 now, part of this group. I was telling them, I was like, I think Tom's probably the best in the country. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, brother. I think you're best. You're the best in the country when it comes to talking about the market and creating content. There's people that are great at on how they explain the market. Mutual friend of ours, Mr. Christopher Slydom, I think he's the biggest real estate nerd out there, really.
Loves to talk about it.
Loves to talk about the market. I think all he does is dream and think about the real estate market, but he doesn't produce any content. Right. You do. And so the fact that you've been able to consistently put out content and speak about the market, man, just big kudos to you, man. I'm really proud of you.
I appreciate you saying that. I think the biggest thing that I've found with the content side, and this is obviously a long journey, right? I started making videos at the end of 2015, but they were monthly update videos, and it was just supposed to be for my clients.
Yeah.
It was me with a suit and tie, looking at the paper in front of me. It was the average detached price was, it was boring stuff. Right?
Yeah.
But I was
you still did it.
I still did it.
Yeah.
Because at that time I was frustrated in the way that I felt on a client experience level and an understanding level of the market that I had it. But I was looking at all these other people. I was why are they doing more business than me? What do I not have that they had? And you learn it's experience, it's database, but I was I need to be visible. So it started with that, with really boring, dry. You could still argue my content's boring and dry.
I don't.
It's educational. It's not so much I'm there to entertain you as much as I'm there to.
You decided that you're not going to be doing the shaking of your ass on TikTok videos, and you're going to go down the educational route.
I actually don't even post on TikTok, which some people think is weird. I've stayed.
Well, I think we need to change that.
Completely
Why?
away from it.
Is there a reason?
Not a lot of people will agree with this. So if you're trying to build a brand, I think TikTok is wonderful. And as a consumption vehicle in terms of the social media platforms, I think it is the best for people that want to be entertained. I think there's a lot of real estate agents that have a massive following on TikTok, and it will feed your ego. I'm just not sure if it's feeding your bank account.
Well, look, I believe that when it comes to social media right across the board, there's people who have 7,800,000 million quadrillion followers and even the views, but to your point, they put no deals together.
That's the problem.
Right? And so I said to you off air, I'm not sure if the team's leaving it in or not. I said that most of my listeners are kind of 50-50. There's real estate agents slash salespeople and entrepreneurs, and the other 50% are real estate investors. Yep. And so you and I can go hours upon hours about being a better realtor, and I want to definitely pick your brains on that, because you've been in the top 35 under 35 for ever now. I
think since they've made it
have you passed 35 in age?
I'm 31, so I got a few years left.
You're fucking 31 right now?
31 right now.
Holy shit, Tom.
Yeah.
That's even more congratulations to you, man. I didn't know you started that young. So when did you get licensed?
Started at 22.
Holy shit, good job.
Yeah.
So I was 23.
Yeah.
When you started, actually, you know what? We'll talk about the real estate stuff a little later.
Sure.
Let's talk about the market.
Okay.
Because you're so boots to the ground when it comes to Toronto real estate. Couple of things I want to kind of throw at you and then get your take on it. You've never obviously seen a market like that we're going through now.
Nope.
In terms of the shift that's happened. 50% less sales at the time of this recording. We're, end of February, early March 2023, 50% less sales. Values in a lot of areas have come down, not necessarily in all, but we're in this weird time, at this time of the recording, where some areas are getting multiple offers. It's not the multiple offers that you and I know of 2 years ago. They're different. I just want to talk about the market as a whole and what you're seeing. Detached, semi-detached condos. You predominantly, correct me if I'm wrong, you and the team predominantly work the downtown Toronto core.
Downtown resale condos, we were number 2 last year out of all realtors.
Resale condos.
Resale condo sales, CO1, CO8.
But and just for everybody who's listening and watching, C1 runs right essentially. Those are Toronto District boards that runs right east to Yonge, west to Dufferin, north to Bloor, down to the lake.
South to the water.
So for all the people who didn't think like I'm actually in the business, I am in the business. I still know that. C8 runs right to DVP from Yonge, again, south of Bloor, down to the lake. Okay. You still do, but it's not just condos. I mean, you're doing the semis and the detaches as well.
Now what is happening is because I sold these people their first condos, 5, 6, 7 years ago, they're coming back and saying, okay, I want to jump up to the next place. So a lot of our business now is we sell the condo and then we help them buy a townhouse, semi, or a detached. But everyone that lived that condo lifestyle for the last 5 years, they're like, I still want to be in the city.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, every single person like, okay, I want to live in Riverdale. I'm like, okay, cool, get in line. So every house gets 10 offers. Okay, now let's look at Danforth. Or, okay, you want more space? Let's go to East York. So if that's on the east side of the city, right? West is the same thing. You're starting, Parkdale, Roncy,
right.
High Park. What's your budget?
Kind of junction-ish.
And then West, North, Junction. And then if they want to go Midtown or whatnot, right?
Okay, so your clients now are calling you and saying, should I sell?
Yeah.
And they don't have necessarily like a strong why because they have to upsize to a bigger home. They're thinking about selling because it would be nice to be in a bigger home. What's kind of your advice to them in today's market?
So I usually like to give advice based on something that I've already done.
Okay.
So I actually just sold my townhouse that I lived in for the last 4 years and moved up to, it's a semi-detached, but I went to the beaches. So I went to a more expensive neighborhood. So I upsized in house and price of the property. And when I look back at, the peak of the market, that February 2022, whatever exact date it was or whatever time, the house I bought was probably worth $400,000 more then because that segment of the market, semis and detached, compared to 1 month of craziness, have come down significantly more than the property that I was selling.
Okay.
So it's like on paper, even though, yes, I sold my townhouse for $100,000 less than it would have been in the peak.
Right.
I was $300,000 net ahead. And now, yes, I have a much higher interest rate.
Yep.
My mortgage is now bigger. But long term, I'm going to win.
And why do you think you're going to win long term?
Because the price cap, when you're upsizing, you don't want the market to be going up because what you're buying next costs more money.
And see, that's where I don't think a lot of people spend time, right? Looking at the fact that, especially if you're going to be holding on to the property for a long period of time, people are not looking at the actual gap and even looking at, yes, interest rates have gone higher, but the value of the home has come down. And I think you had something on one of the socials not too long ago where you were showcasing the actual difference in payments. It's insignificant.
It's basically this. It's actually maybe more expensive now. Like if you look at a simple math, $1 million house is now $800,000. So it's come down 20% based on a 2.5% in February, a 5% now, give or take. Your payment's like $200 more. Now your down payment is less, and if you don't have to put down the 20% to hit the $1 million, and your land transfer is a little bit less, and obviously you want a smaller mortgage overall, right? But most people that I talk to want to know what does it cost me on a monthly basis.
Exactly. And like what's going to be the cost on property tax, the actual carrying costs. People always are looking. It hasn't really changed at all, but with all the headlines that are out there, you would think that you're paying maybe $2,000 more a month or $1,500 more a month, where it's just not true. Like you're not actually paying that much more on a monthly basis. I got the question for you. I know you brought your crystal ball today, so I appreciate that. When do you see values going back up again?
Okay, so I think something's happened in the last 2 weeks where consumer confidence is back. Everything that we have listed or on the buy side, we've been in multiples. Everything. Now, again, doesn't mean it sells $300,000 over asking. Doesn't even mean it sells over asking sometimes. But we've been in competition. I had a townhouse over the weekend. I had 3 offers on one of our listings.
And did you price it?
No, we priced it what it was worth, and it still went over by about $20,000, but that wasn't our expectation.
So when so you said it was a townhome?
Yep.
Okay, 3 bedroom,
3 bed, 2 bath.
And where was this?
This was like Weston and Jane.
What would you have, like, was it listed 5% below what you thought it was going to sell for? Or, because I'm trying to get an idea of the multiple offer situation on
Sure.
that.
So it was for that specific one. There was one that had just sold, but it had sold the first week of February.
Okay.
And I could argue it was slightly more updated than ours.
Okay.
It sold for $634.
Okay.
So we initially, when we first met, it was $675 was going to be our price, and then things shifted, right?
Right.
And I said, okay, that sold for $634. Right now, the math, like I'm a stats nerd on the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So the February numbers suggested that out of all the properties that have sold, people are getting 98% of what they're asking for across the board. Lots of stuff is going over, but average is 98.
Okay.
And buyers, when they are reading the news headlines, believe that they should be getting a deal when they buy a property. So
in today's market.
In today's market, a deal, whatever that means to you, that's a whole nother discussion. So what we're doing on the properties that we are listing at real prices, this is the price, come and give it to us. We're actually listing it 2% higher
than the last sold.
Well, no, then we think it's worth.
Got it. Okay.
Because even if this one had sold under asking,
right,
I could still make the argument that was a really good price and we had set it up for that. The buyer feels like they won. We set it up the entire time because that people want, if they got something off asking, they think they've won.
100%.
But I did a good job for we ended up getting over, which I didn't expect. But even if we had gotten asking or slightly under, I still think we would have done well.
I mean, by the time this comes out, we still won't get the full stats for February.
It's gonna be a lot better though.
And that's where I want to go with this. So what did we end up in January? I think it was like 3,300 sales?
Like 3,100.
3,100 sales. What do you think February is going to be kind of ending at?
45 to 5,000.
Okay. And so for the year, I'm thinking somewhere around 60 to 65,000. Do you think I'm low on that?
I think we could push this. I think we could crack 70,000. Which would be a little bit less than, I think we were 75 last year, 75,000.
Yep.
I think we could crack 70.
It's funny, and again, I want to get your take on this, brother. Last year, 2022, call it 75,000. Yep. 2021, we were north of 100.
It was 125.
125,000.
You're down 38%.
Okay.
That's crazy.
So nuts. But the analogy that I use is that the 100 and, what did you say?
125.
It was 125. Okay. In 2021, that's like going, call it, 200 kilometers on 407.
Yeah.
Where some people do. Okay, not me. But now 2022 is like going, at 75,000 sales, okay, that still feels like you're doing maybe $130, $140. It's still fast.
And the fact is,
there's still a lot of sales.
75,000 sales in a market in a year where we had 7 rate increases is actually somewhat impressive that it wasn't worse. The fact we still sold that many properties. Now, I'd have to look and see what percentage of that sold in the first 3 months before things shifted.
Yeah.
But that's, people were still doing things.
Now, and the other thing that I noticed in 2022, and I think, and this might be a complete ripoff, but now I really do creep you. Because I think it was you, brother.
That's all right.
Well, that's talked about what happened post-July 2022.
Yeah.
Right? Which was the fact that you didn't really see a decline in prices.
No, not from July.
Not from July. I think the biggest decline was like February to that point of July. Maybe it was August, I think you may be quoting. And that's what I think people are always kind of looking at from a seller's perspective. Like, how much is my value going to continue to go down? So what's your thoughts like in your district of C1, C8, like that downtown area? Do you think now with more sales happening, we're going to start to see values increase as well?
Yeah, I'm always conscious of like when I make statements on this is not coming off as like Realtor says prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
Because I've done a few news segments where they'll clip something and I just get absolutely roasted. But, I think, so just what we were going back from July to January, July 22 to January 23, GTA prices only went down 3.5%. That entire time frame. So there was some stability, even though rates continued to push upwards.
So, and just really for context, in that time period, July to January, I think we probably saw 5 increases.
Maybe probably 3.5 or at least 3% from Bank of Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, continue. So in terms of only seeing a decline of 3.5%, I mean, that's not big at all.
It's not big at all. And I think the people on the other side of the argument will go, okay, well, you know, not enough time has passed, right? So who are these interest rates actually affecting? Okay, people with variable rate mortgages. How many people in Canada bought at the peak of the market with a variable rate mortgage? I don't know the answer. It's probably very, very small.
It's actually a great point, brother, because right now all my properties are on variable. Okay. But I never bought at the peak.
Right.
Like I have a property that I bought in 2010, 1-bedroom condo, Stafford Street, right behind Stanley Park.
Yeah.
You know it like the back of your hand. I bought that 1-bedroom condo, 675 square feet with parking. I bought that for $339,000. Okay. I do have it on a variable. I've pulled out equity twice out of that property. Okay. And it's probably worth now off the top of my head, I don't know, 680 or something, right? I'm probably right around there. $1,000 a square foot, probably around there on the resale market. But yes, I'm on a variable, but like I didn't buy it in 2022 to
Also,
your point.
you won on that variable for many years.
100%.
Sure, you're getting, you know, dinged now, but over the life of it, you're probably still going to win on it.
Well, big shout out to my mortgage broker, Chris D'Souza, who obviously kind of does a lot of my financing and stuff like that. He always had me kind of stick with the variable. Yeah. I probably could have shifted a couple of those properties and locked into
But even when you said you refied it twice, that was great. You had a variable because it was a small penalty to refi
like
it,
insignificant penalty.
3 months interest.
And I pulled out equity not to go buy a brand new fucking car. Like I did that and bought more property.
Yep.
People can tell I didn't buy clothes with it. That's for sure, Tom. I'm not as good looking as you. But, you know, I was able to pull out equity and buy more property with that. Yes, I could have went and locked in recently for a fix. But, you know, doing this now for coming up to 2 decades, I've seen, and quote me if I'm wrong, because you're more into the stats than even I am. I'm probably going to win out on the variable in a 10-year window, 15-year window.
Probably.
Right?
There's a reason why the fixed costs more normally. Today it doesn't, which is weird.
Right.
This is like, I don't know how many times fixed has actually been higher than variable in the history. They're probably not that many.
Do you know, Chris, like off the top of your head, buddy, have you seen that before?
2015, and then now.
So
Okay.
the third time it's ever happened.
Exactly, right?
And so that's another thing. If because of the job numbers that have come out, that have been much higher. Like I don't know how we're 10 times wrong on these estimates, but that's an economic question. But because of them, yeah, Bank of Canada might need to do a few more quarter point hikes here. But if they do it, is it impacting a current buyer in today's market? Well, I don't know. Maybe you could, on the mortgage side, we can figure this out. Who's taking a variable right now? Today, a buyer today.
Right.
Are they not taking a fix between 2 and 3 years? Is that not the sweet spot?
I think that makes sense too.
Yeah.
Right? To go down that route. And you seen that as well, Chris? So for anybody who can't hear, I mean, Chris is part of the live audience. It's why I gave him the shout out. Behind his back, I talk a lot of shit. But in terms of what he's saying and to what Tom's saying, you're probably looking at majority of people. Is that the sweet spot? It's a 3 year. So 3 years kind of the more of the sweet
3 year
spot.
fixed.
3 year fixed, right? And what do people get a 3 year fixed at right now, Chris? 5.19. You know, my first property, Tom, I bought in 2008. I apologize, 2006.
Yep.
Okay. I did go on a fixed rate at that time. I was in the business for coming up to about 4 years. So income wasn't stable. I didn't feel confident right away that, okay, let's go with a variable, the up and down. I didn't like that at that time. I didn't have the stomach for it, I guess is probably the best way to put it. So I did go on a 5-year fix. At that time in 2006, I got a 4.5% interest rate. Tom, I have 2 older brothers. We bought 3 homes, okay? Like where all my paisans are in Brampton. And so it was a brand new subdivision, one behind me, one in front of me, 3 homes, 3 mortgages at 4.5% 5-year fixed back in 2006. We thought we robbed the bank.
Yeah.
We're like, holy shit, this is amazing. So even the fact that we're at 5%, to some of the younger generation that's getting into the market, I could see them saying, well, what the hell? Like there was one, there was mortgages out there for 1% promotional stuff back in 2021 and 2020, but 5% is kind of normal. Like
I feel like 25 to 35 year olds are like, oh my God, because they've already had something previously that was lower. But if you're just starting like real early, you don't know any different. And then even like my main mortgage guy, he's like, when I talk to people over 40 and tell them the rates, they're like, okay. They're not like totally out of whack. They're like, all right, that sounds all right.
I was about to say like, yeah, I'm 40. And I was like, no, I'm not 40. And then I went, no, I am 41. Because he said he's 31. I kind of felt like I was younger too. But anyways, I see it 100%, brother, because my guys are mostly investors. Yep. And so they are a little bit older, right? I think about maybe 70% of my 11,000 kind of person community is 45 and higher. And same thing. They're like, it's 5%. I know we got used to a little bit lower recently, but we're okay. As long as it's cash flowing, Jazz, we're good to kind of go. What are you talking... how are you advising younger people to get into the market? I haven't really seen anything, and maybe I just missed some of your content around it, but especially the guys and gals in that area, that's where they kind of want to be in downtown core. How do you tell them to get into the market?
Well, the thing I've said always from the very beginning is the days of buying the property you actually want as your first property have been gone for 35 years. They're gone, right? You're not buying a detached house. It's funny, right? When you look at the land transfer tax and the discount first-time home buyers get, it's well, yeah, it makes sense because when they put that in place, the average property wasn't $1.1 million. Right. It was $500,000, and it made sense on the math, right?
Even when the Toronto land transfer tax came, the double tax, even then the average was probably flirting around 7.25, 750-ish, right?
Exactly. So it's, again, I usually, if I'm going to give advice on something, I'll say, here's what I've done. I don't know the exact way that everyone's going to do it. I bought my first property when I was 23. I paid $360,000 for a condo on Stewart Street, downtown Toronto. And I lived there for a year. Got lucky. The market went crazy that year.
55 Stewart?
32, actually. The original on Stewart.
Yeah, okay. I know exactly the building.
And I refied it. Took 100 out because that was luck that the market did what it did, but saw it as an opportunity, then bought my next property from that. So that's what I did. And
did you sell that?
Not initially.
Okay.
Yeah, I eventually I've now got 4 properties.
Yeah.
But I've moved kind of, if I sell one, it's because I'm putting the money into something else.
And what was the square footage on that?
That was 640 square feet.
Okay. And you probably wanted more.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm really taking my time with this, because I know there's that part of my listenership, and the insights on Instagram tell me that I'm probably my biggest target on Instagram, for example, is 25 to 35. Yeah. Okay. I'm swaying 60% towards male, and no, it's actually 70% male and 30% female. Again, it's obviously has to do with the look. I don't have the look, that's why I don't sway towards the females, except for my girl Ro Catalina. Big shout out to her because she watches the ones and twos when it comes to the audio. That group has a hard time for some reason being comfortable with a 600 square foot condo right now. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to keep up with somebody either on social or in their community, in their family, where you had no problem with that, to just say, you know what, I'm going to start with a 1-bedroom and kind of work myself up this property ladder.
Well, because for the most part, you can rent something nicer to show your friends that where you live than you can afford to buy something, right? What you can rent is typically nicer than what you could buy.
For sure.
But I remember, I had a housewarming at that first condo, and I had all my friends over. They're like, "What do you pay for rent here?" I'm like, "I own it," and I was so proud to be it wasn't anything fancy. It didn't even have no balcony, no parking, but it just it was a good space, and I had fun there. There was a sliding door for the bedroom, it was. Yeah. But that's it. It's it's funny. This morning, I had a call with someone that watches my YouTube videos, and he was like, "I'm 21. I'm graduating soon. I have an idea of what my income's going to be. I have $10,000 saved." So he's really starting from scratch here. He's like, "What the hell do I do?" And I told him what I did. He's like, "Yeah, but prices were a lot cheaper when you started." I said, "I agree with you, but when I bought, no one was saying "Oh man, what a great deal you got." It's not like they were saying "Wow, $360, that was worth $5." They were not saying that. They're like, "Holy crap, you paid what?"
Yeah.
So to know where prices are going to go, none of us really have an idea. We can look at the historical graphs, and one thing I've stolen from you, what I like you say is it goes up and down, but typically it goes up on the long term.
Right. Well,
graph.
And you were saying we don't know, we might not be sure where it's going to go, and I completely agree. However, we also know that in 10 years on average, it's probably going to double.
Yeah, if It's hard to argue with that if you look at the last 45 years of data.
And that's why I always come back to, especially in Toronto, I've always said that downtown Toronto specifically, like we're in Toronto right now where our headquarters are, but this is not like the core of downtown where we're at. I've always said that that's kind of like the sun in the solar system. And then the rest of the places, i.e., where we are right now, Don Mills, Brampton, Mississauga, Oakville, Scarborough, all that, those are kind of like the planets. You know what I mean? Like what you want to be is like you want to be closest to the sun, because we know we have this historical data that tells us every decade values are going to double, right?
You know, it's interesting. So we just sold a condo down at the Harbor Square buildings. Those are 46-year-old buildings.
Like I think those are the first condos ever in Toronto.
May have been the first condos in Toronto. No balconies, no laundry in the units. Now, this unit we had for sale directly faced the water. Okay. So it was like 1,000 square feet, but it was just a big one bedroom.
Yeah.
A big one bedroom, 1,000, because they used to actually build real floor plans.
There weren't shoe boxes.
No, they were real. It was probably tiny when it launched, right? Like, oh my God, it's so small. Needed renos, everything. Anyways, we sold it over $800,000.
Yep.
Okay. So $800 a square foot, which sounds low, but the maintenance was high. It was an old building.
Well, let me guess. The maintenance fee on that thing was at 1,000 square feet, you told me. So it's probably north of $1 a square foot. So you're probably at about
it was like
$1,200?
It was actually okay. I think it was like high 900s.
Okay.
So almost $1 a square foot.
Yeah.
But like super reasonable. But the reason I bring this up is because that location, so the person that bought it, it was because their daughter went to the school on the island, and to get into that school, if you don't live on the island, you have to be living at one of these 3 buildings. So it was a very specific, like, I bought in this location because of my lifestyle, because this is happening. They need to work to that condo. And I've heard the argument, which I agree with for the most part, of like, condos have an expiry date. Okay, at some point, your condo investment, you're going to want to move the money or something, and maybe something freehold if you can, because after 15, 20 years, the expenses, the maintenance goes up. But I just sold a 46-year-old condo for over $800,000. It wasn't $500,000. It wasn't $800,000 because of where it's located.
How many days on market?
7.
So it's not like it sat there for 7 months.
No.
We're talking about 7 days.
Had a great view of the water.
Right. But you know what? That building is full of amenities.
Yeah.
Like they have the dry cleaners in there. Yeah, you don't have the ensuite laundry, but somebody who's living in 1,000 square foot.
And lots of the units do. They've upgraded.
Yeah, and I think they even have a grocery store in there.
Maybe.
They used to have a convenience store for sure in that building. But the location.
That's the thing. That's
you can't beat it
here, right?
Right?
Like,
you just can't beat that location.
Even people that kind of like crap on City Place, I equate City Place to like the Nickelback of condo communities.
Okay.
It's just cool not to like it.
What's the main song of Nickelback, Nick?
Oh no, it's nothing to do. It's just like people hate on Nickelback because it's cool to do it.
Oh, okay.
But when it comes on in the car, you're like, that is a good song. But people talk shit because they're like, it's just cool to hate on Nickelback. You know, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, you'll get it.
I think like Laura's laughed maybe once out loud on my podcast, and it was the Nickelback joke that got you. Okay.
So it's like, a lot of those condos I'd recommend. There's maybe 4 I'd tell people, maybe don't go.
Right.
But the new ones are good. The older ones are good. There's just some in the middle that had some issues. But it's so like, but that location is so good. It's so good, and there'll always be demand for
sure, for sure,
because of where it is.
And even from an investor's perspective, that's part of the concrete jungle that we kind of like in the business kind of call it. But you'll always get a tenant. Like it's not that tough to get a tenant. Yeah, the values are not going to go up. So from an overall investment, I think there's better condos.
Yes.
Which made me think about something that you did, I think about a year ago. You listed like the worst. Was it 9 or 7 or something?
Okay, we're not going to talk about the 3 because I got legal letters about that.
Oh, did you? Okay, so fuck, I was going to take you there, but okay.
Okay, but
is the video still up on YouTube?
I've privated it.
Okay.
I talked to my lawyer. He said I didn't have to do anything,
Okay,
but
got
I
it.
decided as a conscious effort, I wanted to be positive.
Got it. Continue.
So that's
okay.
And I actually had a listing there last year too. But we'll get people out of that building.
Okay.
Anyways, even those buildings, that is a universal real estate community, you'd say, stay away from that, right? Mm-hmm. Even those buildings, and now it's been a good market for condos for the past 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. 10 years, really. If you had bought in that building and sold in 5 years, you would have doubled your money. Even though I think it's the worst building in Toronto. So it doesn't matter what I think. It's located well. It's slightly less expensive. Yes, did it have some insurance issues?
Sure.
People know what I'm talking about probably.
Yep.
But
it's still sold, especially in the entry level kind of price point. That's what it is. You always have these people.
Entry level is always going to be there. What entry level is will change over time for what entry level means.
Right.
But that segment of the market's going to be there.
I'm going to throw a couple of things that have obviously been in the media. Just want to get your hot take, and then we're going to kind of shift towards kind of our brothers and sisters in the real estate business, because you've just done amazing in terms of what you've been able to accomplish in the business. But let's stick with buying, selling, and investing for a second. Foreign home buyer tax. The foreign ban. What's your thoughts on it?
Won't do anything.
Why?
Because we banned foreign buyers and then tripled our immigration.
Yeah.
So it's not going to do anything.
I love it. I love it.
And even like there's some interesting Benjamin Tal stuff recently where he's like, Stats Canada's not even calculating correctly because
I didn't hear this.
This came out like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And there's a good article on it. Go take a look. But he's basically saying like the numbers aren't even right. Like there could be 1 million people coming into Canada this year, like actually coming into Canada. They're not all technically people that are yet Canadian citizens.
Right.
And a lot of the people aren't even that they're coming here. They're already here. They just haven't got their PR yet. And, with the exemptions, like banning someone that can't vote for you is the best political strategy ever. Of course they did it. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives, that was the only line on each of their housing platforms that was the same. Because they're like, yeah, we can't lose on this one.
100%.
Right? So yeah, now, was it a part of the market? Maybe. And actually interesting, there was another report that came out recently. Stories.com did a good breakdown on it, which by the way, I'm not associated with.
I was going to let you go there. I was going to say it anyways, but yeah.
People like tag me when they post things from them. I'm like, it's not me.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I thought it was you at the start. Like when I didn't really, like you and I weren't.
Sometimes
really
I won't correct people. I'll just.
Is it spelled the same as well?
Yeah.
Like your last name? Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay,
like
continue.
Stories of a building.
Yeah.
But they put something out that said like what percentage of people own their property free and clear. In Toronto, it was like 42% of households in Toronto are owned without a mortgage. Vancouver was 50%. So you think like, okay, wait a sec. So that goes into the total, like, okay, well, who's really in trouble with the interest rates and yada, yada. But then the counter argument was like, well, that's because foreign buyers just bought them with cash.
Yeah. See,
so I don't know.
So like we do a lot of pre-con stuff, right? I mean, we do a lot of resale, but I'm going to say maybe about 40% of our business is pre-con, okay? Yeah. And we've been doing that now, heavily focused into that for the last decade. And every time we always heard the same thing, that, oh my God, there's all these foreign buyers that are buying up these condos, because when you go to a sales office, they're speaking Punjabi, they're speaking Dutch, they're speaking Greek, they're speaking, all these, they're speaking Chinese. But what they don't realize is that those people are from Brampton, Markham, and the list just goes on. I never know where the Dutch people are, so I'll leave that one out for they're actually here. They're not buying from Hong Kong or not buying from Dubai. They're actually living here. So I think it was maybe 2-3%, if even that, of actual foreign buyers that were buying. Like nobody actually has the final stat.
If you'd have to put all the lawyers together in a room and get them to.
Well, I actually had our organization, okay, Chris and Jeff Slidham, brokers of Royal LePage Signature. 1,500 agents, okay? The amount of deals, I think we're number 5 on the Toronto Real Estate Board, okay? Mostly done by my boy right here, Tom Storey.
Because only resale counts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah.
Okay. And I said to them, I was like, can you just find out how many foreign buyers we had? And Jeff was like, Jazz, like every year it's probably like 5 or 7.
Yeah.
Not percent. Total. 5 or 7 deals.
Right.
That somebody bought, and this was obviously about a year ago that I asked them to do this. And so, there's not a lot of foreign buyers that are buying. We're not Panama. We're not a tax haven here, right? I was actually in Panama, I don't know, about a year ago, and at night, that's when you can really tell. Because in the buildings, all the lights are off. So you can tell what's happening there, right? We're here, I just don't see a lot of foreign buyers actually putting in a lot of money, specifically in Toronto. In Vancouver, I can't speak to it because I don't have the numbers or I don't really do much business there. So that's foreign buyer tax. The new Ontario Homes Build Faster, I think that's kind of the law. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's great.
I love it.
I think it's great. I think it's a great plan if it can be put into action. I was parking my car the other day and I saw all the signs on people's lawns for protect the green belt, right? So there's going to be both sides of the equation. We obviously need more. Here's what it really comes down to, right? So we can point the finger many different ways, and like what's the problem here? Foreign buyers, an easy finger to point. The reality is, we're the issue. I own more than one property. You own more than one property. Canadians like real estate. We're the ones buying it all up, right? So I actually sat down with a pre-con developer the other day, and they let me come in as a primarily resale agent and ask them real questions. It wasn't like a promotion thing.
Okay.
I was like, why would my clients buy this when they could go across the street and buy something for $400 a square foot less?
100%.
And he was breaking down, and it was actually like good conversation. Like it was like a nice conversation. But I think who are we building these homes for? If it's just investors buying them up, does it actually solve a problem here? And then if you look at the new construction stuff, okay, yes, they are bringing inventory. It's not affordable.
Right.
But they can't build affordable inventory because look how much money the city takes
all the development charges.
On the development charges.
100%.
So like, I don't know, no one's ever going to be happy with the outcome here. I saw you do a video recently on like, Toronto's just going to become a renter's city.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to argue with that.
I actually think we kind of have become a renter city, right? Like if I was doing videos, I probably started about 4 years ago consistently to put out content. And I was saying that like then, like it's becoming, I just think we're a renter city now. Like, I look at my staff that I have. So not my agents, like our full-time staff, about 15 of us, I think 90% Roro are like 30 and less. Right. And majority of them are like 20 to 25, right? Yas and Ro and all these guys. I don't think they even think about purchasing a home. Like it's not even really like, it would be nice to purchase a home, but
you're not yelling at all of them yet to start investing?
Sorry, say that.
You're not telling them all to start investing yet?
No, not yet, because then they're gonna ask me to pay them more. So I go like, I go real deep with it, right? So I get where it's gonna go, right? But yeah, they're not laughing either. You can tell too, right? We should turn the cameras on them. Where, and what I actually do tell them, Tom, to that point, brother, is where you live. Like I want you to get into the market once, because I think you and I and so many others have taken advantage of that equity, right? But if you cannot just wrap your head around getting into the market once in terms of your principal residence, at the end of the day, let it be what it is. Rent your principal residence. As long as the rest of the money that you're making, you become like what Tom and I are doing, which is renting these properties out. But to your point, I just see, man, like us like what's happened in Manhattan and London and Shanghai. Like if you and I were going to go pick up and start a real estate company there, you and I even might have a tough time to purchase in Manhattan.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like average price per square foot.
That's American. That's real money.
Exactly, right? Average price per square foot in Manhattan is probably flirting around $3,000.
Crazy.
And so for us to pick something up there, we would probably say, let's just rent, right? And so I think that's just what Toronto's gonna be.
If you're a creative person too, like between 20 and 30 years old. So Daniel Foch said this on our podcast. I thought it was interesting. And he always comes from a not necessarily pessimistic perspective, but a different perspective than the rest of the real estate industry. He's like, I have a lot of friends in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, you can't afford to buy. It's crazy expensive. Or if you do, prices don't actually increase at a fast rate. It's not like you buy real estate as an investment vehicle.
Got it.
And he's like, a lot of these people rent, but because of that, they had to become more creative in other ways to make money. And whether that's just being more entrepreneurial. Like in Canada, let's be honest, the nest egg of my parents and lots of people is, well, they bought a property 30 years ago and they still own it. So they're worth $2 million.
All day.
Right. And more. And it's a great thing to do. But if you don't have that opportunity to get into, maybe use that time and create a business or do something if you're going to be renting.
Before we jump, we were talking about guys like us owning properties, which was a great segue into kind of the third kind of headline that's out there right now, which is the vacant home tax. Thoughts on that?
I think it's a wonderful way to gain taxes for the city.
And some fees, because most people are going to forget to like go online and like actually register in your place.
Yeah, it's like they give us 3 months to fill this thing out. Like millions of people submitting it. A lot of people. We had a lot of clients that we were calling them being like, I know you did it, but like, do your parents know how to do this? Because it's the system which they took from BC, which is if you don't declare, we assume it was vacant and you're going to get charged. right? Is it actually going to change anything? Will it free up some rental stock? Maybe.
Do you have any clients that have like vacant properties? Like I don't. Like my guys are all their properties are rented out.
Not because they're like, you know, my money's in here and they're like laughing and like my property's vacant and I want that. It's like, you know, I had a guy call me, owns a property near the water. His wife got sick, so they used to go back and forth. This was like their Toronto place they'd come to all the time. They bought it 15 years ago. Like it wasn't, you know, and he's basically like, well, okay, let's rent it now. I'm like, well, was it rented last year? And he's like, no. I'm like, it's not going to make a difference for last year. And so he's saying, all right, well then let's just sell it. I'm out. So those examples exist, but again, it always comes down to, well, what percentage of the market is that actually going to be? And is it going to bring enough inventory with our immigration numbers that's actually going to make a dent? Maybe it stops prices from going up as fast.
Right. Which I don't mind. Like I when I saw the 21%, 21.6 or whatever it was in 2021, I actually was scared. Like I was like, this is way too much of an increase, way too fast. Like it cannot last. We knew it anyways, being in the industry. But now that's why you start to see values kind of come down, right? Like, I mean, whatever goes up has to come down over time.
I mean, I think the real goal of the city of Toronto was to make you declare if it was your principal residence or not, so that when you sell it, they have declaration that capital gains are coming. I think that's the info they want.
Like, I mean, I just, you know, I don't know which government might do that. I have a feeling it's going to be more of that red color and this new reddish orange one that might do it. But that concerns me, right? Like if they're going to start taxing us on principal residence, I mean, talking about nest eggs and what us Canadians have done, I think that's just, you know, that's probably another podcast episode for me and you to go kind of off on. One last question about real estate, brother. Supply side, what do you got? Like, how do we actually bring more supply into the market? And I don't even know, like, I'm not really looking for the 100% answer because I don't think you even have it. Yep. But what's some thoughts around it? Like, how do we get more inventory on, like, in the market?
I mean, if you simplify it as much as you can, you have to make sure that developers can build faster and not be waiting for all these delays on everything, right? But then the other thing is too, is like, it's interesting, right? Like you look at an aerial view of Toronto and it's like Yonge and Sheppard is built up, Midtown is built up, downtown is built up, and then there's just houses all in between, right? Like it's interesting. It's like boom, 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 and then houses everywhere. When I go to my cottage property, which is like east, like on the way to Prince Edward County, we have land. We have it. I see it. People just aren't interested in living there, or we're not building there. Like the land exists.
Do you think that, well, I don't think that's even protected by the Greenbelt where you're going.
I don't think that
this
area is, but there's lots of areas that were protected that maybe it's opening up now.
But to your point, people just don't want to live out there.
Like we're creatures of habit. We like to be where other people are. And even for me, like when I go to my cottage, I love it for like 2 weeks maximum. And then I'm like, I want noise.
For sure. You want to get out and
I want to feel like I'm
100%. Hence why you're, you were closer to like right in the core of downtown, but the beach is the beach, man. I mean, it's obviously keeping you busy. All right, brother. I mean, I don't want to say the speed that you built your business, because I know how much patience you had to have, and how long it's taken. I didn't know that you started when you were 22, but I think you came onto my radar, it's safe to say 5-6 years ago. I was like, there's something going on with this guy. He's not like some of the others I've come and seen and gone, because it's been 2 decades for me. It's 8 years for you. If I did
9 years.
9 years now. Okay. What was the plan at the start? Was it like, okay, I'm going to get licensed and kind of just, do some deals here and there? Did you always have the Storey team visioned?
No.
Okay.
No. So I started on my own. I started at a very small boutique company because my aunt's friend worked there and I met him for lunch one day and I knew nothing about anything.
Got it.
He even said, he's like, you'll help me do the approvals. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm doing mortgages. He's like, no. You need to qualify the buyers for me. Like I didn't know anything.
Sure.
Like I just came in, was like, okay, what do you want me to do? I learned how to put ads on Kijiji to get rental clients.
Okay.
I mean, this is a story I think a lot of people tell, but I did 62 leases my first year and I did 3 sales. and I built my database, and then I stayed in touch with them, and then it got to the point where like, okay, you start with running ads for leases, and then it's okay, well, I don't need to run the ads anymore because now the leases are referring me other people. But then you get to the point you're like, okay, people refer me for what I did for them. And then it had to get to the point where like, okay, like I do leases, but actually normally I do sales. At this point, I was just bullshitting. Yeah. Normally I do sales, but I'll help you with your lease because I got so frustrated. People like, you don't do sales, do you? I'm like, come on. Like, yes, I do sales. I do sales. So that's how it started. I got into real estate coaching very early.
Okay.
And I actually got a ticket, sat back row at a Richard Robbins conference, end of 2014, at the end of my first year.
Love him.
And I looked at the people on the stage and I said, if they can do it, there's no way in hell I can't do it.
And so where did that belief come from? Like I always tell people, look, if there's anybody that breathes the same air as us, then there's no reason that you can't do it along those lines, right? Like, but for you, was it this like, were you always that kid, like in high school as well? Like, fuck, man, if somebody else can do it, I can do it. Or was it something that like maybe someone said on stage? Was it Richard maybe?
I mean, Richard's been my number one person that's helped me. But I will say like, even like, you know, going back to like being a kid, there was this store at the end of my street and they sold like hockey cards and like Pokemon. By the way, Pokemon is the best thing. The generations just always love it. It doesn't matter. You grow out of it.
I'm shocked that it came back.
It's still a thing.
Yeah.
But if I like wanted a card and I had no money, I figured out how to get the money.
There you go.
Doing legal things within 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, I like that you added the legal things.
I figured
like
out
that.
how to get what I wanted. I've always figured that out.
Right.
You know, I can get that done. So when I became very clear on, well, what is it that I actually want in this industry, then it just became like, okay, just go do it.
Right. Now, you said something that, you know, my ears just are always listening for it, which is you built the database.
Yeah.
I actually spent probably an hour and a half today pushing that down my group's throats.
It's still where 75% of my sales come
Okay, so I need you to say that again, Tom, because people, for some reason, either get tired of my fucking voice. I don't know what it is. It's a massive passion of mine. It's the only way that I built my business. But right now, and so just for context, 2022, the year that just finished, out of 22,000 agents in our organization of Royal LePage Canada, 22,000, you're in the top 1%.
Yes.
So everybody always wants to be in the 1%, but they don't know what it takes to be in the 1%. But at bare minimum, it takes doing what the 99% are not doing. Just simple fucking math.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is that you built your business. 75% of the deals you did last year were from your database.
Repeater referral.
Perfect. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we really took our time for our brothers and sisters to hear that, because they see you on content and they know how well like you've done in terms of how well you articulate on video and all that, and you do a great job. But yet still 75% of your business comes from repeat and referral.
I can tell you how many people have picked up the phone and called me after I've done a news segment to say, Tom, get over here right now and sell
Please
my
tell
house. Zero.
Oh yeah. And I love that.
I mean, other people in the industry think it's cool. My
Yes.
clients gives me recognition.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
But it's not where new business comes from. So, you know, my business is like into 3 different buckets at this point, right? So I don't have a massive database like you. Like we have our secondary, let's call it, email list.
Okay.
But I have my cores.
And what's your core? So what does that
I
consist
have
of?
325 people in it.
And that consists of whom?
People that I have bought or sold property with, or they have referred me multiple people. Like someone that essentially never ever put a dollar sign over a client's head. That's not what I'm saying here.
Yes.
But, well, I'm kind of going to say it, but for them to go into that database, I know I'm spending $200 on each of them per person per year to be in that system, because I'm going to run a system, touch points, client parties, events, all the things, the money that we spend on everything, that for you to go in there, it's $200.
How many touches a year off the top of your head?
I mean, 30 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
30 something.
The importance of continuously touching them is very important, because that's how you're going to get their awareness, right?
And then breaking down, okay, there's a lot of agents that get a lot of repeat business, which is wonderful. It means you did what you said you were going to do, you stayed in touch, and they used you again. But unless they're investors, the average person moves once every 7 years. So so some agents are like, oh, I do have a ton of repeat and referral. And I'm like, break it down. Like, well, I did 9 repeat and 1 referral. I'm like, there's something wrong here. Because if the people that haven't even repeated yet start referring you, sure as hell is going to get the repeat.
Right.
So it's like, where's the messaging gone wrong that they're not referring you? And there's one little kind of tweak I made in my business. The first conversation with a new buyer, a new seller, I will say, and I never bring paperwork or anything. I'm like, I'm here today to tell you all the things I'd want to know if I was in your position. Also want you to know how we run our business. So, 75 to 85% of our business every year is word of mouth. So I won't use the word repeat and referral because to a consumer, it
means shit.
Industry talk.
Yeah, it's jargon.
It's word of mouth. So all I want to do is such a good job for you that at the end of this, you want to tell your friends and family about me. So that's how I disarm them to start every conversation. You could almost see their shoulders go from like,
so true. Or they're like they're like this, like, what are you trying to sell me right now?
And
then they start to come open.
I'm not gonna ask you to sign anything.
Exactly.
And so that's how I start the conversation. So I could probably do a better job at calling people and asking. I don't actually ask as much as I should because I've made it clear from day one, and then they kind of, and I've seen it in the results that it's working.
Okay, so
that's bucket 1, by the way. That's the first
continue.
Bucket. Okay. Bucket 2 is alliances. Okay. That is other real estate agents. That is mortgage brokers. That is if you sponsor your kid's soccer team. That is if you are in a BNI group, yada, yada. Right. A massive part of our business last year was realtor referral.
Interesting. Outside of the province, country.
Outside of the province. Okay. Even some people from Mississauga are like, I'm not driving to Toronto.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And same thing, like I'm 416. I sell 416. I'm not going outside 416.
So you get something in Brampton, it goes out.
I'm sending it.
Perfect.
Sending it out.
Great.
I learned early in my career as I was doing those drives, like, just one drive. Then you're 6th time, you're like, fuck this.
Well, and to your point really quickly, I think it's important that you made that decision because the way that C1 and C8, you don't know, you're not going to know W24. No. You know what I mean? No. Like that's kind of Brampton's thing, right? And so your client is going to get serviced a lot better by giving them the expert in that area. Vice versa. Like try to compete with Tom and his team when it comes to the C1s and the C8s, right? Third bucket.
So just before I go to the third bucket, the second bucket, that the core of it's still a realtor referrals, right? Mortgage broker referrals is a part of it, but it's not quite a two-way street. It's just the way the industry works. You're going to send more than you're going to get. That's okay. But the realtor referrals, okay, well, where do they come from? Well, I go to conferences and talk to people. I don't just hand out business cards and walk away. I'll be honest, it helps that I get to speak on stage because there's a level of authority that it doesn't hurt, right?
And we're going to talk about that in a second.
Second is obviously the public speaking stuff. I do a lot of trading for brokerages, and when I'm getting paid for everything now, but I didn't used to get paid. I was just like, I'm just going to do it for recognition.
For sure.
Because I'm just giving something away.
But you didn't have the name at that time, right?
And then the third one is Instagram.
Yes.
Of our 13,000 Instagram followers, guess what? 11,000 of them are realtors. Okay. Instagram's just a big realtor
100%
party, 100%. Liking each other's stuff. So I know who I'm talking to. Now my clients are on there too. So I'm going to sprinkle in, and I don't start my videos with like, hey, realtor, listen up.
Yeah.
But if you watch my content, you can see who I'm talking to.
For sure.
So that is a massive way, like the amount of, leads that start from DM.
And I think it's important, right? Like you said, 13,000, 11,000 are realtors. There's still 2,000 people that out of which, let's just even say 500 of them are your clients.
Yep.
If it's 1,000, that's even better. But say you have 500. I mean, that's still a really, really strong community of possible clients.
The clients, I see it as just an extension of the keep in touch plan. Right?
Yes.
Like they just see my face and they see me doing things. They don't watch every video, but Instagram has been my realtor to realtor B2B referral plan. It's not like I'm DMing people to like create a relationship. It's just like they see my stuff so often. It becomes, pretty natural. Third bucket is new business. Now, we talked about 2021, 125,000 sales. 2022, 75,000 sales. This year, maybe 65 to 70,000. So in 2021, we went to a pizza party and we ordered double by mistake and we all got extra slices. Last year, it's like, there's just a medium-sized pizza. We might get a small pizza this year.
Yeah.
So the pie's not changing in total. The pie's changing in a smaller direction of total amount of opportunity.
Yes.
Compared to... Right? I think brand new agents will crush it. I think agents that came in at the beginning of 2021 and had a hot start are going to struggle for a little bit because they're going to adjust. They're still going to make it, but they're going to struggle.
Why do you think the brand new agent will crush?
Because they're starting in a difficult market.
Yeah.
They didn't start when it was falling in your lap.
Yeah.
It's like you got to work for it now.
Well, I think, a lot of, and they're friends of mine. So I'm not afraid to even talk about it, but like the guys and gals that did just focus on pre-con, they're starting to feel it now because people are not searching investing into real estate on Google as much.
Right.
That also has gone down by 50%.
Yeah,
kind of correlates to the sales, right? Where it was more order taking. Like, would you like fries with that? It was kind of like that, right? It was quite easy because people were just like, can I buy 2 pre-cons? Well, knocking on your door or your emails were dinging and the phone was ringing, where it doesn't as much and as frequently now.
I was saying that to the pre-con guy I was talking to the other day. I was like, wouldn't it be nice if you could come in, sit down, talk with someone, have a glass of champagne, look over the floor plans, make a decision, walk out, get a little bag and feel good about it, where it wasn't just like, give me this, give me this. It's like it's like the pre-con industry of the last, 3 years was kind of like trying to buy a Rolex. You walk in the store, they laugh at you, like, get the hell out. You walk into an Omega, they're like, thank you so much for coming today. Sit down. Would you like champagne? Like, that would be nice if you can create that experience now.
Yes.
On that side. I'm going on a tangent here, but to go back to the new business, the reason why I make the pizza analogy is because opportunity is going to be smaller, which means that your repeat and referral percentage, just mathematically, is going to be less than it maybe was in previous years of opportunity. So you got to find new business as well, which is going to fuel. And so we've got 2 ways we do that.
And I want to talk to you about that. So talk to me about the 2 kind of ways that you're fueling your new business bucket.
So the one way, which might actually surprise people, is we send direct mail flyers every month still.
Interesting.
10,000 condos.
Okay.
We have a big ass QR code that goes to a Calendly page, and I wake up in the morning and go, oh, I have a listing appointment today.
Interesting.
But I'm 4 years into it.
Okay.
It's not cheap. It took me about 4 years of my business to even be able to afford to do something like that. And I got lots of clients in these buildings too. So it's just like,
they see your face again, but still, I mean, you're sending it to 10,000. Is it how many times a month?
Once a month.
Once a month. Okay. Okay.
And we're trying to be creative. Like the one we sent out recently said, like, no one cares about your condo.
Yeah.
As much as we do. We're trying to be creative.
For sure.
They're slightly taller. So when you get stuff in the mail, ours sticks out at the top.
You only know those because you know those kind of tactics because you've been doing it for 4 years.
Yep.
Somebody who's just going to get started, what they're looking for is like, how do I get my quick lead and how do I get a deal within the first month? Doesn't work like that.
That's a long-term strategy. And it's like they'll find you there because you've been hitting their building. Mm-hmm. And then they'll go look you up on Instagram. And then they'll find you on YouTube. And then check your Google reviews. So it's like you got to make sure it's a 5-prong attack.
Right.
That's just one of them.
Well, I've always called that kind of the guerrilla marketing, right? A tactic where you're hitting them up with everything in the kitchen sink and seeing what kind of sticks, right?
Sometimes I'll walk in, they have a stack of my postcards
Holy
on their
crap.
table. I'm like, I guess I got this one.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we'll do anywhere from 15 to 20 condo listings a year from the farm.
Just the postcards.
Just the postcards.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And the second way,
YouTube.
Okay.
Massive.
So let's go right into the content kind of talk, right? Because you've done an amazing job in terms of the growth on your YouTube page. I personally, and I don't know what's right or what's wrong, it feels right to me, so I went down this path. Yeah. I like to be kind of on all the platforms all the time, as much as possible. Where you went really focused on YouTube, and there's something to the fact that the riches are in the niches. Okay, why YouTube, and what do you see? Like, how can someone who's going to get started, just got licensed a month ago, or maybe they're in their first couple of months, what's kind of some tactics for them?
Okay, so why YouTube to start there? Every realtor is on TikTok. Every realtor is on Instagram. Every realtor is on Facebook, or some do paid ads. How many realtors are making consistent content about their market that's educational on YouTube on a weekly basis? And the answer is very, very few. Yeah. So right away, you have less competition.
Well, we can even talk about that in Toronto. How many? Fucking like maybe 5 or 7? Like really? Like you're saying 0? I actually don't think it's much at all.
May people that I compete with an audience for?
Yeah.
A handful.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. And I know you probably looked into this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there's some opportunity there for everybody who's watching or listening right now. Massive
Especially
white
if you work in a
space.
smaller market. I think it hurts me that I'm Toronto because it's so broad and I can't really hit into specific. If I just sold in one area,
Like, are you thinking like if you were just to go like into the micro of like King West or something?
I think if you made weekly videos on King West, like your
You would
favorite videos on
crush.
King West, what's going on with sales, and you just became that person, yeah, you crush it.
Especially if you brought in like, you know, the bakery at the corner of King and Strawn or some shit like that, right? Like, and really started to own that area. Okay, continue.
So I think consumers go to TikTok and Instagram to be entertained, and they go to YouTube to learn, because YouTube is Google. And people type things into Google because they want an answer. The hack used to be on YouTube just to get views is how to anything.
Right.
You'd blow up.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
Okay.
You just do make how-to videos. You'd blow up.
For sure. And now that's changed a little bit.
It's changed a little bit.
Okay.
And TikTok's getting better as a search platform, and I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm only speaking about what I know.
Right.
So what I know is that I've been doing YouTube with a plan in place for about 18 months.
Okay.
We sold 27 properties last year from YouTube. 27. We had 84 calendar appointments directly from YouTube. Sold 27 firm properties. We've already had 13 calendar appointments this year and 4 sold.
Okay. So
just from YouTube.
And so, and like getting into the micro of the strategy, you put up a video educating people on the market. I know that shit. Like, or is it tips and stuff? Like, what's the content that you're putting out there? Because the Calendly link everyone can do. You just throw that in the description.
In the description with a very casual call to action in the first 30 seconds.
Perfect. Okay, continue.
Okay, so essentially, the ideas for videos would be, I think about it like this. Okay, Hollywood actor does the blockbuster movie to get paid their $20 million, and then they go do the 3 movies they actually care about, okay? Because they've got the finances figured out.
Yeah.
So I, right now, will do 2 videos that are headline based, okay? So 42% of all condos in Ontario are owned by investors. That is now the title of my video, because someone else whose job it is to write titles wrote that. That's my title. Okay, I will start the video saying, did you know that 41%? Comment below if this number surprised you. So initially they're engaging. Then I'll have my call to action. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Tom Storey. I run a team in Toronto. If you want to book a call with me, you can go into the first link in the description, book a buyer call, a seller call, or a discovery call at a time that works for you.
Okay.
Boom. So that's done. Literally, then what I will do with these type of videos, these news headline videos, is I will share my screen. I'll talk about the news headline.
That's it. It's almost
No
like
script.
a green screen video that you can kind of do on Instagram or on TikTok as well.
I'm a talking head. That's all.
it.
I'm like, when you watch after a sports game and the people talk about the game, I'm just doing that for real estate headlines.
And see, and that's what I love about that type of content, because the headlines are fed to you. Like, all you got to really do is Google real estate Toronto, click the news button underneath the search bar. I'm sure this is how you find it. Like, I'm not that smart, so I'm not trying to I want to give people the quickest hack, because that's how I learned. And if you just Google that, now you got all your headlines, whatever you're comfortable with in terms of commentating about. That's exactly what Tom's doing.
So that's one way you have to think about it, because those videos will get you views and they will get you subscribers, which will help you build authority over time that, hey, someone's actually watching this. I'm not the only person watching this person. But that does take time, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I put out a video about a month and a half ago called The Ultimate Condo Buyer's Guide. Mm-hmm. It's a 45-minute video with chapters at the bottom on everything you could ever want to know to buy a condo in 2023. It's just resale focused. Mm-hmm. And underperformed like crazy compared to my other videos. It's at like 3,500 views, which is still really good.
Right.
But, we're averaging 5,000 to 10,000 on the other ones.
Right.
6 people from that video alone have booked a call with me to buy a condo this
year. And that's what I love about that, because that's very similar to what we did we call it the pre-construction masterclass. Yeah. Okay. Views wise, I have no idea off the top of my head, because the one thing that I the metric that I look at, how many people did we send that video to in our database before they were buying a pre-con?
Right.
And we based, like, they weren't allowed to move forward on a purchase unless they told us that they watched that whole thing. Why? Because we know if you didn't watch it, chances are you're going to pull out of a deal at some point. We probably last year in 2021, I think we ended up with 120 pre-cons. In 2022, I apologize. And I'm going to attest at least 70 of those deals, and Laura, call me out if I'm wrong, to that pre-construction masterclass because we repurposed it, right? It wasn't new business. It was just to feed the people in our database already.
And then on the other side, I had a video I put out that's at 50,000 views, which was basically just, I did live Global News Morning, and I took that footage and added me talking about it at the beginning. And just, it was like a throwaway video.
You commentated about your own video?
I didn't like watch it. I just said like, I met with Global. Here's what we talked about. Here's the clip.
Okay. That's an interesting take on it.
It was a throwaway video. I had nothing that week. I was like, well, I was on the news when I just talked about this.
Yeah.
50,000 views, no appointments. And the watch time is way down on that video, but it was like 2023 Real Estate Outlook or something was the headline.
Right.
So you views don't matter. The ROI is appointments. Unless you just want to do it to become famous in your little niche.
So it's funny.
I'm doing it because I run a business.
So it's, man, like we're really on the same page. And I think that's why, our results kind of speak for like we're very similar in terms of the fact that we're getting results, right? Yeah. And because we always talk to real estate agents about the fact that there's like building a personal brand as well as like becoming an influencer. And for us, and I don't know where we got this from, but we've kind of now, the way that we explain it is this, is that a personal brand is trying to monetize on a product or service that they have to offer, which is kind of like what I do and what you do, Tom. Where an influencer, generally speaking, is monetizing on someone else's product or service, right? Where, to your point that you're building a business, you're looking for like, how much business did I get out of this? Right? Not necessarily how the online vanity metrics of followers and views and likes. It's more like, fuck, did I get some shares, saves, and Calendly appointments? And then out of the Calendly appointments, how much did I actually sell? Which probably has more to do with your salesmanship than anything else.
But I could tell you, if I was getting 0 results at this point, I wouldn't be doing it anymore. So, yeah. I like it, but I don't like it to spend this much time on it with no results.
I don't probably say that, but I'm going to steal that one from you because it's so true. Like, I love this shit. Like you can tell, like I like when there's a live audience. I like the cameras. I like having I'm learning a lot from you and from so many of my other guests. But fuck, I'm not going to be as obsessed and spend the amount of money that I spend if I'm not getting it back some way, somehow. You know what I mean? And so would you attest like to somebody who's newer and is thinking about getting started, it's like, just fucking start. See what your niche is. It might be a podcast. It might be long form video. It might be short form video. Like, where would you tell people to get started and how?
There is a book called The YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves, I think his name is. And the forward of the book is Mr. Beast in the forward. And basically what he says is like, your first 100 videos are going to suck. Your first 10 are going to be really bad. Your next 10 are going to be not quite as bad, but still pretty bad. But then by video 101, you're going to look back and you've come a long way. But there's no one, Jazz, that I look at in our world that has like 8 videos posted. I'm like, oh yeah, that person.
Yeah.
No, it's the people that have been doing this for a while that like, I've got 300 and something videos on my channel. You've got probably thousands at this point. Like it's the people that are putting in the work and the time because it's not an overnight thing.
For sure. I mean, for everybody who's older, who, the Mr. Beast reference is by far the biggest YouTuber on the planet. I don't think anybody is bigger than him. Like that's not like a team. And so when he talks about your first 100 videos, I actually think I used to say about 2 years. So like now I think my new thing is going to be, it's like 3 years. Like for 3 years, just shut up and don't even look at your numbers. Don't do anything and just produce content. Know that you're going to be shit. Don't try to get a return yet. Like don't think that you should be getting a return, but you have to be able to consistently do this for 3 years. Then you can start to see, because I think like, when you mentioned 18 months, You didn't do your first video in 18 months.
No, that was when I had a plan in place.
Exactly.
I was throwing shit at the wall for a while before that.
But that probably got you more comfortable with getting in front of the camera.
And like, so by the way, the podcast that I started, by the way, I had you on for the video course. You're like, Tom, why don't you just have a show called The Tom Storey Show? What the hell? I'm like, all right, fine.
What's your podcast called?
Yeah, Tom Storey Show. and we're now 7 months in. We're averaging 2,500 views on YouTube per episode. We're doing 600 downloads per episode. It's growing.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at here is, sound like I was just showing off there, but it was because you gave me the idea.
I know. I don't know.
Steve Karras, who's my co-host. Okay. I got him involved in YouTube maybe like 2 years ago. He just passed me in subscribers, that bastard, yesterday. We've been going back and forth.
Okay, well, everybody, if you guys have been going back and forth, everybody who's watching right now and listening, make sure you go follow Tom Story's YouTube page. Is it Tom Story, by the way, on YouTube?
Name, yeah,
okay, good.
But here's what's cool. Steve was doing 3 videos a week when he got really... So Steve's run a big team, 100 sales a year for a long time out in Surrey, BC.
Okay.
But his clientele was it was drying up on the repeat and referral a little bit. He's like, okay, I got to do something here. 3 videos a week on YouTube about his market. Boring. He would like review forms. Like it was real boring. I can say that because, we make fun of each other all the time.
Yeah.
Then he did one video that was called 35% of Canadians are going to go bankrupt. It was a headline that he stole. 220,000 views on that one video, 2,500 subscribers from that one video, and his channel took off.
Oh.
But he was throwing videos out for 6 to 8 months, 3 a week. And then one hit. And it's funny because it was a throwaway video. He was like, I don't know what to talk about today. Let's just...
It's funny how that works. Is sometimes that you just one of those that sometimes maybe even just sitting in your drafts. You're like, oh, let's just get this out. And the next thing you know,
and even recently, like I would pre-record a lot of my short form stuff for Instagram. And so I'd have like 10 videos in the bank I could post whenever. And then recently I'm just doing the green screen stuff. It's doing double the amount of views.
Oh, man.
It's crazy.
I love the green screen stuff. Do you content batch now?
Yeah, but short form.
Okay, so
not long form.
And so, what's your style of content batching? Like, what do you do? Like, pick a Sunday or something? Like, what do you actually...
normally, like during the week, we'll rent a studio.
Okay,
like we'll do the Mint Room in Toronto.
Okay,
we'll rent it out. I'll have 20 ideas.
Okay,
and at this point, I've done this. Now, it didn't used to be this easy.
Got it.
But I can just sit with my video guy and just bang out 20 short form things, and then we're done. And then he edits them, sends them back.
And then, like, literally outfit changes, all that.
Yeah, usually jeans stay the same, and then just the shirts.
Okay, so you just change the shirts. And the reason I'm asking you this is because I think you'll be surprised, and you probably get it too, Tom. Like, I get that question from agents all the time. Like, do you change outfits? And at the start, I was like, what the fuck?
If someone even notices you change outfits, that means they actually care and they're watching.
100%, right? So, and then how often do you do that, though? How often do you do the 20 stuff? Like the content
probably
batching?
Once every 2 months.
Once every 2 months?
Enough. Because that's polished short form content.
Okay.
But then sometimes I have an idea and I just want to throw something out and then I'll green screen it or just do an Instagram story.
Or just do an Instagram story. Okay. Or go into selfie mode or something like that. And then your podcast is what now? It comes out
once a week on Sundays.
Okay.
We're always pre-recorded 1 week ahead.
Okay, perfect. And is it all focused around like real estate? It's
a mix. So we have an interesting dynamic where the YouTube viewership, because we've polled them, is 90% consumers.
Okay.
But the listenership in the car is all realtors.
Huh.
So when we have guests on, we'll actually give them a heads up and say, hey, when you're answering questions, if we start realtor heavy at the beginning, that episode will not perform well.
Interesting.
We have to start market heavy and then get into inside baseball.
So I didn't know that. I'm glad that you and I fucking did that though now. Like, I didn't even know that if we went the realtor at the start. So I'm glad that you mentioned this because I'm going to make you.
You want to start with the market.
Interesting.
Because realtors like that too, and 100%. Then they like the stuff.
Yeah.
But a consumer you start on the real estate stuff, they're like.
If I went the real question is this: if I went to the realtor stuff at the start, would you have told me, Jazz, we should stop this and let's go?
Maybe I wouldn't have told you. I would just like change
nudged it and change the conversation to that. So once a week with podcasting. What's your thoughts about podcasting, man? Like,
I think it's been great.
Do you enjoy it?
Every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. is when I record my podcast. That is it. That is in my calendar always. Like in terms of me thinking about it, that's for the rest of my life. On Thursdays, 11:30 a.m., I record my podcast.
And for everybody who's wondering why we always say, like, name it the Tom Story Show, because you can't fall into paralysis by analysis, because I have spoken to so many people, and they're like, I'm trying to get the best name for my podcast. I'm like, based on what? Like your subjective opinion on if it should be, the whatever, the Red Phone podcast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the best thing and the easiest way to start is just name it Your Name Show. Yep. But what I really enjoy about it, and this might happen in 10 years with you, is that now if you start selling cameras, you don't have to change the podcast name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of shift and go so many different ways with that. Tom, brother, I want you to leave my investors with kind of one strategy now, like for the rest of 2023. Okay. In terms of creating wealth, that's kind of what the guys and gals are looking for. And then I want you to leave my realtor brothers and sisters with one strategy for 2023.
I mean, I think if you look historically, and not to say that the market is bottom, because I don't know, we could still go further down here, right? Everyone's favorite term these days is like, oh, the cat, it's just a dead cat bounce. It's just bouncing before it goes down. Maybe you might be right, but there will probably be opportunities that present themselves in the next 6 months that you will look back in 10 years and be like, wow, that was good. So if you're an investor right now, buy something with a 10-year perspective and don't look at it and put it away. That's realistically, it's boring, but that's the best advice probably.
Look, man, I mean, you know, you look at somebody like Warren Buffett and you look at any of the people that have been uber successful. I mean, I barely passed high school, but the one thing that I'm just so happy that I fell in love with was this thirst for knowledge when it comes to business owners and people that are just that are very successful, because they all have left some clues, right? The same way that you're doing now. And the one thing that you notice with all these successful people, it's the boring stuff that made them wealthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like even Steve Jobs, you look at someone like him, and obviously Apple and everything to do with Apple is very exciting.
He was Pixar too, which we forget.
100%, right? But and not that was boring by any means, the actual invention, but it was the daily grind that was boring.
Yeah.
That nobody really sees. And so when it comes to investing, to your point, that 10-year window, I mean, it is boring. It's not sexy, but Warren Buffett says it, like he wants his lifestyle to be exciting and leave his investments to be boring, because you don't want to get calls from tenants at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning that they're fighting. You know what I mean? Or something's happening.
You also have to keep in mind that real estate investing is not passive. There's work involved,
true.
right?
So true.
There was Warren Buffett just did his yearly report to all of his investors. And what it broke down to is basically like there were 5 or 6 moves we've made over the last 30 years that made us beat the market by 10%. But if we hadn't made them, we would just be an average company to invest with. So it's like you can own a property for a certain amount of time and sell it because you think things are bad, and then it doubles 2 years after that. So we don't know when these moments come, but if you get out or you try to time things perfectly, it's like, well, good luck, but probably at some point you're going to miss an opportunity.
I completely agree. It's like on the pre-con side, people who just get in to do an assignment, and for the last 3-4 years, yeah, you could have made a lot of money, but now you possibly could lose your shirt, right? Like if you literally came into this investment only wanting to do the assignment, now's not the time.
I mean, I'm trying to bail a lot of people out of assignments right now that I didn't help them buy. I'm getting calls weekly.
Oh, I mean, look,
it's like, you'll break even.
Yes, I know.
Try and close on it.
But it's just yeah, look, I mean, and to that point, they just need to possibly, like, if they can't close on it because they can't get the financing, then still, like, just try to find a joint venture partner and try to close on it, because you are going to make money on that purchase. You just got to hold on.
I've told them all, I'm like, in 10 years, you're going to like it.
Oh my God.
But for this moment in time, it's not going to look great.
Well, it's what you said about your condo at, 300,000 and change. Yeah. It's not like everyone was thinking that was a steal.
No, not when I bought it.
But in 2010, the $339,000 condo that I got, everyone was like, holy shit, that's expensive. And it felt expensive to me. I think my payment was probably $1,400 a month or something, but at that time it was a lot of money, right?
That was my first mortgage payment too.
See, there you go. And that, like, now we would love to have $1,400 mortgage payments, but that's our bi-weekly now kind of payments, right? And so you just over time come to realize that with inflation, as we're feeling it now, prices and the cost of living starts to increase, but the best way to protect yourself, in our opinion anyways, is with real estate. To our agent friends.
I mean, real estate's a contact sport. There are a lot of us, and frankly, even though only a small percentage of us do a lot of the business, there are still a lot of phenomenal real estate agents. And if you are not staying in touch with your clients, somebody else will. If you think just because you sold someone a property that they're going to call you back when they're ready, that's not how it works. Because guess what? Maybe they started dating someone whose best friend is a realtor, right? They've been inundated with the local specialists marketing for the 5 years they've been living there. And you go into that thinking it's just yours again. It's unlikely that's going to happen. Tell people the truth. Do a lot of myth busting. Tell them what's going on.
I love that.
Don't say that you know what's going to happen, because that's going to burn you. Say, here's what's happening. Have a conversation with people. Don't say, yes, this is going to happen, because we're not financial advisors. We don't know what the market's going to do. Show them the data and let them make their own decision.
I don't even think the major economists do. Like you mentioned Benjamin Tal, who I've been like following for years, and he's awesome. I love that guy, but he's not always right. He probably has more data than anyone else, but even the economists are wrong, and they've been wrong, right?
We had Brendan Augmanson on our podcast, and he's the chief economist for the BCREA. And he was joking like several times in the episode of like, yeah, you know, the models are always right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he was making jokes
Sure.
being like, yeah, our models are, we think they're good, but they're usually wrong.
Well, look, man, like I like to also knock, the head of Bank of Canada for some of the decisions that he made and the timing of them. But at the end of the day, they kind of try their best with the data that they have, aside from any kind of conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff, which there might be some truth to as well. But at the end of the day, they could only have made the decisions with the data that was presented to them at that time. So, I mean, anyways, to that point, I also wanted to remind my viewers and listeners that I think you'll get a theme now. You've heard it enough. The successful real estate agents are doing a couple of things. They are consistently putting out content. They're consistently staying in touch with their clients, and they're probably thinking about this at like all times of the day. How much value and in which ways can I bring value to my clients through events? It might be through, you said it's a contact sport, right? So through educational events, social events. It might be, the postcards in the mail. It's a matter of making sure that you get in touch with your clients as many times as you possibly can, and don't be sleazy and salesy. Yep. And to my investor clients, guys, it is a long-term game. I know there's no sexiness in that, but the longer that you hold on to real estate, the better and the bigger return that you'll get. Tom, I can't thank you enough, brother. Not only did you sit through the whole podcast with me, but you did it in front of a live audience.
Did you think I was going to leave halfway?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe sometimes people need to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know what it is. But I really appreciate it. I appreciate the amount of content you're putting out there, brother, because as I mentioned, I get to learn from it. But I have a team of 60 agents, and majority of them know you as well. Yeah. So you're kind of doing the heavy lifting for me. So I appreciate that as well, brother. All the best for the new year, my man. Thank you.
Thank you.